Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture of literature. I'm Adrian Fort, and we are here for a poetry discussion over one of my very favorites from one of my very favorites. This is from Emily Dickinson. If you were coming in the fall, and I know I've done multiple videos on this poem, but I like it. So if you're here and you're going to stay, you're going to have to deal with it. So let's start with a reading. This is poem 511, as identified in the complete collection of Emily Dickinson, happening on page 249 into page 250. If you were coming in the fall, I'd brush the summer by, with half a smile and half a spurn, as housewives do a fly. If I could see you in a year, I'd wind the months in balls, and put them each in separate drawers, for fear the numbers fuse. If only centuries delayed, I'd count them on my hand, subtracting till my fingers dropped into Van Diemen's land. If certain, when this life was out, that yours and mine should be, I'd toss it yonder like a rind, and take eternity. But now, uncertain of the length of this that is between, it goads me like the goblin bee that will not state its sting. It's tempting, it's very tempting, to see this as a sweet poem, to see this as a loving poem, to see this as a poem to your long-lost sweetheart, to see this as a poem to your waiting lover. But the recognition hits fairly quickly that this poem assumes a twisted sort of requirement of sacrifice that something good may come. After all, it is the most important, the most important thing we have is time, because it's the only thing you can't buy, you can't trade for, you can't assume or acquire in any way. And we're willing to lose it in order to see this person. If you were coming in the fall, I'd brush the summer by. It's throwaway. It's worthless. It means nothing to me in the way of you. But after the recognition that it seems a twisted requirement of sacrifice, that recognition slips very quickly into a paranoid asceticism for something good will happen if I force some type of no good. This time, the summer, must be thrown away. It must be done away with. Because the intervening time means nothing. Because it is in the way of you. But I think it's even worse than that. I think that the terror, the underlying terror here, is even more pronounced. Because it's not sacrifice. And it's not ascetic. It's not an asceticism. But why? If I'm willing to make that statement, I have to be able to illustrate why. Let's read the poem again. If you were coming in the fall, I'd brush the summer by with half a smile and half a spurn as housewives do a fly. If I could see you in a year, I'd wind the months in balls and put them each in separate drawers for fear the numbers fuse. If only centuries delayed, I'd count them on my hand, subtracting till my fingers dropped into Van Diemen's land. If certain, when this life was out, that yours and mine should be, I'd toss it yonder like a rind and take eternity. But now, uncertain of the length of this that is between, it goes me like the goblin bee that will not stay its sting. Where do we see any reference to again? Where do we see any reference to that other party acknowledging us? If you were coming back in the fall? No, if you were coming in the fall. If I could see you again in a year? No. If I could see you in a year. And then there's the stark recognition, realization, that there's not even any contact referenced in this poem. Not only is this being written to someone who may or may not be the lover of the author, of the speaker, nay, the subject of this poem might not be aware of the speaker's existence. There is an ultimate distance there, and because of it, we deign not even contemplate. If you were coming in the fall, I'd brush the summer by to hold your hand and hug you close. No. We can't get that type of intimacy here because it's not even implied. Further, that penultimate stanza, if certain when this life was out, that yours and mine should be, I toss it yonder like a rind and take eternity. The ultimate sacrifice in the ultimate uncertainty. That's heavy. And so, though it is tempting to see this poem as sweet and loving, I don't think it's wise to do so. I'm not even sure it's okay to do so. I think that a poem such as this has to be taken with some measure of shame, almost. There are many poems in Emily Dickinson's canon that for which I think the argument can be made. They are dangerous if taken at face value. They are dangerous if these words, however wise they might be, however stunning they might be, however enlightening the metaphysics behind them may be, if taken straight up off of the page, if taken as words and wisdom by which we should live, they would be dangerous, and not just in a romantic fashion. In a fashion that seems to long for distance. In a fashion that seems to be willing to make the ultimate sacrifice, if certain, even for an uncertain thing. If certain when this life was out that yours and mine should be, I'd toss it yonder like a rind and take eternity. If I were certain that I would have you, even though I am uncertain how we would get along, I'd go ahead and give it all away. I would go ahead and give away everything else. That's heavy. That's all I have for this poem. There are many poetry discussions here on the channel. There's many poetry reviews on the channel. There are a lot of read-alongs and book reviews and short story reviews here on the channel. So if you like this sort of thing, it really helps me out here on the channel if you give me a like, subscribe if you have not already, and I promise to be back shortly with more poetry discussions.